Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Formula One. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my sister, Jack.
Hi, everybody.
And what a weekend we had down under in Australia.
Australia never disappoints.
Truly, I mean, this could be a contender for craziest race weekend. There's lots that happened, and obviously we'll be getting into it. That's why we're all here. But I guess to dive into the news first and to travel away from Australia for just a moment and over to California, I just want to quickly touch on the IndyCar Thermal Club Challenge. Did you watch it, Jack?
No, I saw highlights on social media. And obviously we're in a group chat that was talking about it, so I just got it from there.
Oh my goodness. What a weird event. Number one, congratulations to Alex Palou. He won. If you are not following IndyCar, if you missed the Thermal Club Challenge, Thermal Club Challenge was not a points event. It was like a cash prize event held at this private racetrack called the Thermal Club. And it was very interesting. I commend them for trying something new, but quali was 10 minutes per heat, so they divided it in two, basically how they do first round of quali for normal street and road courses. So all of quali took under an hour, which was crazy considering 10 minutes, that amount of time was really just one lap per person. And then the way that they formatted it, the actual heat races, it was 10 laps, or it was 10 laps or 20 minutes, or maybe it was the other way around. But it was basically whichever comes first of those two, and say there's a caution, which is an IndyCar red flag or IndyCar yellow flag, sorry. The laps under caution don't count, but the clock keeps running. And then there was this weird mandatory 10-minute break in the middle. It was ridiculous. I was watching it. I was like, what is, I feel like I know a good amount about IndyCar. I have no idea what's going on here. However, congratulations, Alex Palou. It is good because we don't have another IndyCar race until the end of April. So give us a little bit more IndyCar. But yeah, if you are wanting to witness something truly special, it is on Peacock, the Thermal Club Challenge. And in that group chat that Jack referred to, everyone that was watching was sort of like, what is happening? This is actually, none of us are really clear on what's going on.
What I gathered from the text messages was that a kid was kind of just allowed to decide what was going on because it didn't make sense.
It sort of struck me as it almost reminded me a little bit of how I felt about certain elements of the Vegas race for F1. And in terms of it sort of seems like they kind of went with, let's just kind of throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. But in this context, they decided everything stuck and that let's just try it all at once. And it was a lot. It felt like a lot. But we got to see IndyCars on track, and we wouldn't have had this not happened. So, all good. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly give a little note about that because that was part of my weekend, and Australia was also a lot. So I was like, this is a very intense racing weekend.
Just pure chaos weekend for Jamie.
Yes. In other news, before we get to actually the events of the weekend, it came out today that Liberty Media, who owns Formula One, is going to be purchasing MotoGP.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, actually.
I'm excited.
I would definitely be interested. Yeah, I see the clips afterwards and things like that, and it looks super cool. So I definitely want to watch more of it. So they've done a really good job. You want to agree, disagree with Liberty Media itself, but they've done a really good job of building the fan base for Formula One. So I think they'll do a good job of growing. And maybe there'll be like some, like I know it's not under the Formula One, like F1 Academy is, but maybe they'll have some weekends kind of more like where IndyCar, their weekends have a bunch of different types of racing going on. So maybe they can kind of combine them, which would be cool.
I think that I would love that. I'm not sure how realistic that is.
It doesn't matter to be realistic. This is optimism lane. This is where we're at.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I think there are plenty of criticisms about Liberty Media and about how they're handling things now, I think especially. But in terms of like, they took Formula One and grew it to be one of the biggest sports. Well, it was already obviously very big, but really in terms of fan base and things like that, if you look at the numbers of race attendance and race watching since Liberty Media has gotten involved, I mean, it's skyrocketed. So hopefully the same happens for MotoGP. It's really exciting. I need to learn more about it. I, similar to you, Jack, really just watch the clips on social media, and I see the way that they like lean completely off the bike, and then when they crash,
it's crazy.
So
it's very scary, very crazy. Yeah. Don't know anything about the rules, but do know that, like, I don't know, they're crazy. They're all crazy.
Pretty sure they can use spare bikes too, which don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure, but I'm like 80% sure there's spare bikes involved, which love that.
We would love to have everyone to have a spare car in Formula One.
Spare car. We'll get to something spare car related in a second. Other news, Toto will not be at the race in Japan, not this coming week, but next week, planned pre-AusGP. Again, we'll get to how Mercedes did this weekend. But this is not a new thing. Toto has been doing this for, I think, at least a couple of years, where he sort of splits his time. Virtual team principal. He was virtual, if you remember, when George won in Brazil in 2022.
Yeah.
FaceTime Toto. So no Toto in the paddock at Suzuka.
Speaking of other team principals, though, Zach Brown extended his contract till 2030. So he will be, I think he's just CEO of McLaren Racing. I think that's just his title.
Oh, yeah.
Because he does IndyCar and Formula E and all that stuff. But
so not a team principal, CEO.
CEO. Yeah. It was just for a transition.
I was so confused where you were going with that. I was like, is there other team principal news out? No.
Well, I honestly thought on it. This is getting into a little more of the episode, but I genuinely saw the Mike Crack release a statement, and I was like, "Oh God, they're getting rid of him. It's so early. They're not doing bad." But yeah, that's not happening. But yeah,
that would be kind of like a funny, almost like Fernando/Lawrence Stroll thing to happen, where it's like Fernando gets a penalty and then Mike Crack gets fired,
and then it's Mike Crack's fault.
Yeah. We will get to that in a second. I'm curious to your thoughts. I have thoughts. But last thing before we get into the actual race weekend, we've talked about these rumors pretty extensively, and they've been kind of all over Formula One news, Formula One social media. The rumors about Max possibly leaving Red Bull. And it seems like he pretty much shut them down this weekend.
Yeah. He was like from the horse's mouth, this is how I feel.
Yeah. So couple quotes from him. He says, "I'm happy within the team, and of course, it's very important that we try to keep the key players in the team for a longer period of time, because that's of course where the performance is as well." And then also in another quote, he said, "At the end of the day, it's a performance business. It's the same as if I wouldn't perform, I wouldn't be sitting here. It's how that works. But with the deal in place, it's also my intention to be here till the end, because it would be a great story for me personally just to see it till the end, because it basically means that I've been part of one family and one team."
Yeah.
So it was fun to think about what the chaos that would ensue if he did leave, but it doesn't sound like that's.
I mean, we still don't know, do we? But it is kind of what everyone, including us, we were saying this too. Like, why would you leave a team that is so dominant right now? So
you are winning everything. Like, why would you go
well,
somewhere?
not
Especially
everything.
this, yes, we will get to that. But especially go to a team that's clearly struggling and has clearly been on a
Yeah.
downward trend, referring to Mercedes, right? That was the rumor.
That was the big tie of that's where everyone was like, he's going to Mercedes, and who
The
knows?
Max George teammate dynamic would have been insane.
I really wonder I really wonder what their friendship would. I don't know, like how much of. Well, they play pickleball and stuff together, right? So they're
Yeah, I think they're
friends.
like acquaintances.
Yeah. So I wonder what it would be like if they were actually teammates. I don't think it would go well.
It would not. Definitely not on track. It would not go well.
Yeah.
But shall we enter the madness that was this past weekend in Australia?
Absolutely. And we will not be doing it in accents. We promise.
I can't do an Australian accent, so
I can only
you don't
say
have to worry about that.
I can only say the Mark Webber. You know how Lando says
Mark
Mark
Webber.
Webber? Mark Webber?
Mark
That's the
Webber.
only thing I can do. Which he gave out the trophies.
Oh, and also very recent, in the last couple of days, it was Multi 21 anniversary. So happy Multi 21 anniversary to all those that celebrate.
I don't know what that is. Am I supposed to know
Yeah,
what that is?
yeah. It's when
Oh,
Seb,
yeah. Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Okay, I do know what you're talking about. That's hilarious. We
for
should
those
have
listening
posted
though,
something.
if you're not familiar with Multi 21, it's the infamous Red Bull racing event where Seb and Mark Webber were teammates at the time. Team orders were that Mark was in front, Seb was supposed to be behind him, and Seb just ignored them and drove right past Mark Webber and then tried to claim that he was scared because of the way that Mark was racing, and that's why he had to pass him. And it has this really, really just beautifully iconic moment in the cool down room where Mark just turns to him and goes, Multi 21, Seb,
Yeah.
Multi 21. Because numbers at the time were a little bit different. So Seb, being the reigning world champion, was number one, Mark, number two. Great story. Enemies,
Well,
enemies, just the best enemies, honestly, in contention, in my opinion, with Nico and Lewis. What a story.
yeah. Oh, and then speaking of Seb, just super quick before we get into the actual Australian GP, Seb is going to be racing Le Mans.
Yeah.
So that would be sick.
Anything to see Seb in a car again.
Anything for that. Big fan.
Yeah.
Okay, Aussie GP.
Okay. Now we're jumping in. We're jumping in to the deep end because the first thing I want to touch on, our sweet, sweet American king, Logie Bear, did not get to race this weekend.
No. No, he did not.
I'm like, okay, let's just give some context to everybody.
Yeah.
So what happened is Alex Albon crashed in free practice. And at this, and if you missed this and you're sitting here thinking, what does Alex Albon crashing have to do with Logan not being able to drive? My thoughts exactly. Anyway, it then becomes clear that Williams does not have a spare chassis. And this is a problem because you need a spare chassis because the chassis that was on Alex's car was extremely damaged, could not be fixed during the race weekend.
Yeah.
This means there's only one car available for the team, Logan's car. Williams then made the call to give that car to Alex Albon with and I do sort of understand this where it's, it's so tight where they are in the field right now, and 1 point could make or break things for them, especially with like the size of cash prizes and how different they are between, say, like 8th and 9th in the constructors. So Alex Albon drove instead of Logan in this weekend. And I get it.
Yeah, I think everyone gets it.
But if I think about it too much and think about the way Logan must have felt leaving that conversation, like, it genuinely makes me wanna throw up. Like, it's so sad.
Screaming, crying, throwing up. Yeah,
The other
100%
part
agree.
of it is, yes, I do understand, like, points really matter. However, realistically looking at it, were they looking at getting points this weekend? And I also think looking long term, it's a very long season. 24 races, we're only 3 in.
Yeah.
What does that do to a driver's confidence? And what does that do to their ability to maybe be confident enough to score points down the road if you're pulling them into a meeting and being like, we don't trust you?
Yeah. I think that's incredibly valid. If you look at it numbers wise, even just like this year too, though, like
Yeah.
this year, Williams has struggled. I don't think they have a point. I don't
No.
think they've made it out of they have not made it out of Q2 for quali. Um, I understand having that conversation and being like, what is our best bet? It's kind of crazy that the conversation happened
Yeah.
because
Well, it's
you would
honestly
just think,
zooming out, insane that they don't have a spare chassis. Insane. And they said it's not going to be ready until after Japan. So if this happens, if someone crashes in Japan, this happens again. What are we doing? And
what
James,
are we
and
doing?
we know that James is my favorite team principal. I also really, beyond the fact that this whole situation makes me a little I appreciate his honesty about this. But he said that over the winter, because in this rebuilding phase, like, other things took priority over building a spare chassis. And I'm just confused. Sorry, what possibly would take priority over building essential spare parts for the car?
It was obviously
And I'm
those
doing
new
Italian
steering
hands
wheels.
because I'm frustrated.
Yeah, for those who can't see. It was obviously building those spectacular steering wheels that are working so well for them.
Should have stuck with the old ones. Give them personality. I just
Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, it's not even like I feel like you can't even relate it to anything like both of us have been through of like, oh, you get benched for like a game or something, or you're not starting for the game because it's like you're there. You're not even participating. I don't even know. Like it's just such a crazy experience like for it to have happened, to not have the spare, to it's just wild to me. It is wild to me. I still
I
am not
just
wrapping my head fully around it, to be completely honest. And it's almost been a week.
Yeah. And again, we both want to clarify, like, we get it. We
Yeah.
know we are not trying to sit here and say, like, we're not being delusional and saying that Logan is the faster driver. He's not. Like, you can look at the data, he's not. He is
Yeah.
closer than he was last year, which we love. It's just wild to me. It is wild to me that it's not like, there were certain races last year where it was looking pretty certain that Alex was going to be in the points and Logan wasn't. It's wild. It's wild.
I just like it's so crazy. And obviously the other drivers were asked about this, right?
Oh, Max had a great quote.
Max continues to be one of my favorite lightly PR trained people. That's what I'll say about him. Because he said that he feels bad for Logan, which is, I think, across the board, everyone did. But he also goes on to say that if it was him in that position, he would have crashed his car, so no one on the team could have raced.
He
Which
also
is
was like, and then
very on
I'd be on a
brand.
yeah. He also was like, and then I'd be on a flight home. Like, I wouldn't be
Oh
here.
yeah, he wouldn't have stayed. So that's another thing too to think about, right? Like Logan didn't have to stay. He could have pulled a Max in this situation, or even a Kimi. Remember Kimi in Monaco? Like, literally went on his boat and left.
Hey,
He could have
DNF, and
left.
then he got out of the car, didn't even go back to the pit.
Didn't even go back. He went on a boat.
Went right to his boat in his race suit.
In his race
Love
suit.
it.
So I think that just shows that Logan, like, his character and his integrity, because, and he was out like with fans signing stuff. Like, I don't know if I could face people being like just constantly bombarding you.
If that was me, I would have locked myself in my hotel room and said, "Give me the Williams team credit card. I am ordering every dessert that they have on this room service menu, and you're paying for it."
You guys want to see the budget cap? You guys are going to see it. You guys are nervous about it? Well, you're going to see it on paper.
You thought Red Bull broke the cost cap with catering a couple of years ago? I'll show you. I will show you.
So Logan did not race.
Yeah, hopefully they get that spare chassis in soon. It's bananas to me that we are at the quote-unquote pinnacle of motorsport and teams are doing things like this, but I rest my case. I could go on and on. We still have a lot to get through, so let's just move on.
We'll move on, because we can go back and forth about if it was right, if it was wrong, if it was whatever.
But post that heartbreak, we did have quali. If you're one of the people that joined Danny and I on TikTok Live, thanks for hanging out. It was 1 a.m., but hanging out with everybody was very fun. Would do it again 10 times over. Our quali result was shocking. So shocking. Max P1, Carlos P2, which was awesome. Strong performance from him coming right out of his appendix surgery. And then technically Lando P3. Checo qualified P3, but then received a 3-place grid penalty for impeding Nico Hülkenberg.
Which, if Checo didn't get that penalty, I think that was your prediction for podium.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
You're just putting it out there, manifesting that.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's pretty crazy, and we'll get to the race result. Carlos won, by the way. Let's just, well, okay. And last week, my top 3 prediction, I said Max, Carlos, Checo. But I also, when I said Max, I said because it's just a foregone conclusion that that's going to happen. And I think this is just adding to this never-ending list I have of like, I don't know what it is. When I say something in absolutes, it just doesn't happen.
I think you were the ultimate curse. We need to do like an updated curses episode to include you in it.
Yeah. Like, sorry to all the drivers I'm a fan of, because like your doom is impending. Like, also, I can't control it.
Right. Last year we named Max the curse breaker, right? Like he got he broke all these curses, even the Nico Rosberg curse. You have stumped him.
Hasn't broken this gal's curse.
You have stumped him. So drivers better get on our good side. You should send us.
No, I don't think you want to be on my good side, because when I like you, I say things and then you get fired.
Oh, like Otmar.
And Carlos. Or you end up in a $20 million lawsuit. Let's pull up. This crosses series too.
Yeah, this is not series specific. It does not discriminate. Sorry, Siri thought I was talking to her. So she's
Siri, you're not invited to this conversation. Anyway.
Not invited.
But yeah, so we'll just continue me being cursed. I guess we'll keep documenting it. Who knows what I'm going to say next and speak into existence. Only time will tell.
But Carlos won. So he once again broke the Red Bull winning streak.
Yeah.
He did it last year in Singapore.
Yeah. Only non-Red Bull race winner in the last however many races last season plus these 3 is. So that's what, 25?
Did you see that people were online pulling that when Carlos wins, George crashes?
George has never finished a race that Carlos has won. He's had 3 wins, obviously. Silverstone, there was the big crash with Joe.
Yep.
And the famous clip of him like running across to help Joe. Then he won in Singapore, and that's when George binned it on the last lap.
Yeah.
And then this race, Australia, again, DNF'd on the second to last or last lap.
I think yes, like second to last lap.
Yeah. Which is a crazy curse. And you know what? Karma for COTA 2022.
I forgot about COTA. Oh, golly. That's hilarious. That is really funny.
Glad he's okay.
Really funny.
But you know what? That's what you get for turning into Carlos and DNFing him turn 1 in COTA 2022 when he was on pole and it was his race to win. George.
Yeah. So speaking of DNFs for this race, there were 3 of them. 2 of them were Mercedes. So Lewis DNF'd. He had engine failure. Pretty early on, and then like Jamie said, George crashed. He ended up in the middle of the track. It was pretty scary. I honestly saw, because we didn't actually like see it happen. They had to do like replays, and you just see it, and it looked like I genuinely thought he flipped his car. The way that it was.
He was I think like basically he hit the barrier. I think it was at turn 6, and one of the tires came kind of off of his car, and so as the car spun back out onto the middle of the track, one of the tires got stuck under, so he was kind of stuck at an angle in the middle of the track, which was very, very scary. I think personally, and I have seen arguments on both sides, I personally think it's insane that they didn't red flag.
Oh, agreed. I 100% agree.
And I get that there was like, thank goodness, I think Lance and Nico Hulkenberg were the 2 first cars to come by, and Lance and both of their engineers were luckily really on it. But we've seen, what was that one race ago when Lance crashed and his engineer was just looking at other things, trying to keep up with all the data, and so didn't even know that he put it in the wall.
Yeah, I was like, can you bring the car? Can you bring the car back? It's like, I'm in the wall. And listening to the radios, I don't know if you've listened to the radios around that, it just makes like your heart's just in your stomach.
Yeah.
Hearing George ask, like begging for like a red flag, he's like, I'm in the middle. And then hearing Lance's engineer also like kind of screaming, saying he's in the middle of the track, slow down. He is taking up the whole track. So, but everyone is okay. And that is what matters.
Yes.
Max also is a part of that DNF. He DNF'd very early on, like lap 3. It was for his brakes, right? His brakes literally caught on fire.
Yeah. So that was like the smoke was coming from his brakes. And then I think it was like a technical failure. I honestly didn't look too much more into it, because I was just like, oh my gosh, Max DNF, we're going to have a fight at the front. And then we didn't really have a fight at the front, but I was happy about it because my driver was at the front, so I didn't want anybody fighting him.
Yes. So the final for the end of the race was a Ferrari 1-2.
Yeah.
And a McLaren 3-4.
Oh, look at us. Look at us.
Look at us.
Is this what Red Bull fans feel like every week? Oh, so beautiful.
It's pretty nice. It's pretty solid. Big
fan. You know, last week, I think it was, when you were like, don't you think Max might be getting tired of winning? If this is how it feels, I'd never get tired of this.
Yeah, when it's when you have a double, like that's the thing is we talked about last week, right? We were like, oh, it's so great to have 3 different teams on the podium. But when it's your team and you have a double podium, you're like, yeah. Heck yeah.
I am team 3 teams on the podium unless it's a Ferrari double podium, then that needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year McLaren got 2 double podiums, and I was like, "This is awesome." Big,
Yeah.
big fan. Big, huge fan of it.
Thriving, thriving. Um, and then going back to George's crash. So, what happened? And I'm curious to see what you think of this. Essentially, what the stewards determined was that George's crash was more or less caused by Fernando Alonso, who started his braking process about 100 meters earlier than normal, which is like in the braking zone Formula One terms, like tons of space, like huge gap between his like normal braking zone. And because he braked early, George was not expecting that, had been following him, was following very closely, had to correct, locked up, and then ended up crashing. Based on the data that the stewards found, they gave Alonso a 20-second post-race penalty from 6th to 8th, basically saying that his actions were potentially dangerous. I think this is kind of crazy.
And then he got 3 penalty points on his license. Yeah. I also like didn't see that.
I just think like it would be one thing if he, brake checked him really hard and then George crashed into Fernando and that was the cause of George's crash. But Fernando never touched him. And I think I mean, steward inconsistency. I mean, that's want to go there. But this, I feel like, opens up like what is considered strategic or defensive driving and what's penalty worthy. Do I think this was a little shady? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I think he deserved to be demoted from 6th to 8th over this and get 3 points on his license, on a super license? I don't personally think so. When I saw that, I was like, maybe I'll get a 5-second penalty for that.
20 is a lot. I don't know what it is with the stewards lately throwing around these 20-second penalties, but it's crazy. They're giving them away like Oprah was giving away cars. Like you're giving them to everybody. And
sometimes they're kind of funny. When K-Mag got like 10 of them, that was kind of funny.
Like for no reason. It's just it doesn't I don't know.
Yeah. So referring to your Mike Crack statement, I kind of agreed with Mike Crack on this one.
Yeah.
Who was basically saying he was like, we're just shocked about the severity of this. And it was racing and Fernando didn't directly hit. Like Fernando was, in their argument, Fernando was turning or braking earlier to set up his gears to get the maximum benefit from the DRS zone that was approaching, which I don't know if I believe that, but I guess.
I could 100% see that Fernando Alonso is being petty, but I also agree with like Mike Crack in that statement was saying that he's not a dangerous driver.
No, yeah.
There's a lot of other drivers I would say that are dangerous over Fernando Alonso.
Like he was defending.
Yeah, I don't.
And I guess, I mean, we're not pros, so
I don't know. Well, maybe, the FIA president will probably go back and reverse it. So,
FIA president loves Fernando Alonso, apparently.
Loves Fernando Alonso. So, we'll probably see it reversed.
Yeah.
At least there's no trophies involved this time.
Yeah, and then the FIA will investigate the FIA, and then they'll find that the FIA did nothing wrong. And then
the FIA could do nothing
Susie
wrong.
Wolf is going to get in trouble over this.
I'm leaving. I hate you. I'm leaving. Yeah, I don't know. If I was on the FIA, if it was me, I think it would be maybe if I was feeling really petty that day, like maybe a 10-second. maybe just a 10-second penalty. And yeah.
Is the guidebook for giving penalties public, or do they just kind of do what they want? Because I feel like if I was having a bad day, I'd be like, everyone gets a penalty. I would be like, remember that era where they were giving everyone a bunch of penalties for not parking right in the grid, in the grid boxes? That would be me. I'd be like, you were 1 centimeter too far, so 10-second penalty.
Okay, I'm looking at the 2022 Formula One sporting regulations. I don't think it would be in here, but
maybe. I mean, I think that strikes me as those are the things that you can get penalized for. These are the regulations, but I don't know if that would have penalty guidance in it.
Yeah.
Search Command F penalty and see what happens. We're witnessing live research, people. No one is doing it like Formula One. Look at us going straight to the
also
source.
some typing ASMR.
Click clack.
Oh, that talks about licenses. He could appeal it.
Yeah, remember last year Carlos got that ridiculous penalty in Australia, and they appealed it, and they denied it.
There's 61 penalties in here, so maybe
Whoa.
I'll look through, and I won't look through it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You know what we should do one episode? We should come up with new ideas to add to the list of penalties.
Okay, wait, I'm down.
Yeah, if we were stewards, what we would penalize drivers for.
Look out, Charles Leclerc. It's definitely going to be the pants that you wear on a weekly basis when you show up. What you show up wearing.
He wore pants not that long ago that I didn't think were that bad. They were jeans.
I think the girlfriend effect is really working well.
Yeah, his girlfriend has fantastic style.
So yeah, so thank you to her.
Yes,
you're helping Mans out because
yeah, she's doing God's work.
Yeah, he was struggling.
Back to the race, though. Back to our boys over. Our boys over at VCARB. Quite the different vibe on the different sides of the garage over at VCARB. Yuki, what a weekend. Made it to
7th place.
He got points. Yeah, he finished P7. I mean, he was a dominant weekend for him. Incredible performance from Yuki. On the other side of the garage, the Honey Badger, his home race did not go great. So he qualified P18. His time was deleted for track limits, but still. Even with, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think even with the time that ended up getting deleted, I think he was still a little bit slower than Yuki, if I'm remembering correctly. And finished the race P12 with 3 DNFs.
Yeah, and one person didn't even race.
Yeah. So, not a great weekend. Allegedly, rumor, dirty air time. Apparently, he's been given the dreaded ultimatum by Helmut Marko.
I'm sure Helmut Marko will confirm this at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't really need to speculate for that long. Someone go to Helmut's house and just give him a microphone. He'll tell us.
Just ask. He'll give you the answer.
Yeah. So according to sources, which we will confirm or be confirmed or denied anytime, any minute now. Helmut has apparently given Daniel a 1 race ultimatum that he has to improve at Japan, or Liam Lawson's getting his seat.
I miss Liam Lawson, dude.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, okay, yeah, sad. But then there is a silver lining here. And this is,
I did read an article today that, if I find it, I'll post it to our social media, on our story, because it was very well done. And they were talking about how it was an opinion piece, obviously. They were saying that they don't think that whatever Yuki is doing, it will ever be enough to get him into that Red Bull seat. just because they just don't see him ever being there. They've like kind of already decided he will always be on that secondary team. And he could be winning races and he's still probably in their mind, like on VCARB, probably still like a secondary driver.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, how many times do you have to prove yourself?
There's definitely immaturity. We've talked about this because I think it was the first race where he kind of like dive bombed.
That was
There's definitely immaturity. We're not going to deny that. That is 100% true.
Like, are we forgetting how Max used to be? Like,
exactly.
all of a
Max
sudden
really
they
went
can't deal with
after
immature.
Esteban. Also, look at Esteban. Esteban is so immature. Like these are a bunch of little like immature baby boys. So I would love to see Yuki go somewhere else because I think he could just thrive anywhere else.
I think a new environment would be helpful for him. Also, back to the Daniel thing. I think it's crazy, and who knows what else is going to happen. But I mean, I was coming into this season pretty much convinced, and I think a lot of people were, that Daniel Ricciardo will be in that Red Bull seat at least by 25, if not sooner. And now my question, I think, again, a lot of people's question is Danny Rick even going to be in the VCARB seat by the end of this year?
Yeah.
It's not really looking like he is. And it's crazy as well because he had some strong performances last year and he
did
had some strong performances during testing, which again, we know testing, take the times with a grain of salt, but he seemed really comfortable. He seemed really strong.
Yeah.
And it's just not there. I don't get it.
I don't know where the disconnect is, to be completely honest. He didn't race a ton last year because when he finally got into the seat, he got injured, and then it took a little while for him to get back into the seat. But when he was middle of the pack.
Mexico, he qualified like, what was that, P4?
Yeah. Like I don't know what has happened, and I know he has said he would like to retire as like an actual like Red Bull driver.
But you got to perform.
I don't know.
For that.
They're not gonna.
Yeah, if unless it's like a major miraculous turnaround.
Yeah,
I don't even think. I think he does need to finish ahead of Yuki in the drivers' championship for them to justify it. But I don't even think it needs to be by that much. Or even if he just has a couple of really strong races, I think Red Bull would be willing to justify it. In the same way that
him.
I think, that you know, you were saying their Yuki is just nothing's ever going to be enough for them. I think kind of reverse that, and that's how they feel about Daniel. And it's just like the littlest thing, perfect, we'll put you in the seat, and he's not even able to do that at this point.
I think based on sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and Christian had some interesting comments about Carlos.
He did, which whatever.
I like that. I'm just going to start mentally preparing myself for him to be going there. I will be wearing Carlos merch. I don't know if I'm quite at the point where I'd be willing to wear like a Red Bull, even if it had a 55 on it. So we're just going to.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to maybe sit back and hope that maybe it's not true. But then the alternative is Mercedes, and Mercedes is like double DNFing left and right. So I don't know if I want him there either.
Yeah. I don't know where he could go for a year. If he is going to even go, because we talked about this last episode, that we're all just assuming that he will be at Audi when they take over Sauber in 2026.
But I don't think if he's signing with a top team, I don't think they're signing somebody for 1 year.
That's the thing, though. Would Red Bull want him for just a year?
Well, I don't think they would. I think they would sign him for a multi-year contract if they ended up signing him. So, I mean, we just have to all sit here and wait, and I really hate that.
There are conversations happening. People know the answers to that we don't have that I want.
I hate when conversations are had and I'm not in the room.
I'm a noisy girl.
Let me in. I'm like that TikTok of that lady, or I think it was a Vine. The lady where she's at the bus and she's banging on the door and like singing opera. That's me. Let me in. Let me in.
No, isn't there like an actual TikTok where it's like, let me in, please?
Yeah. Please let me in.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. I don't know. I think and then going to like back to the Daniel conversation for just one last comment. Because I think Daniel over these past 3 races has been incredibly humbled because the way he was talking in the off season about his performance, about him pretty much going to Red Bull after this season. So I think he has been very humbled. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with it.
Yeah. I'm not fully losing faith. I mean, we've seen him come back from some bad stuff. He is very resilient, Mr. Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah. So I think we will see. It is surprising that we are having this conversation for sure.
Yeah.
I have 2 more less happy things, and then we'll end on a happy thing.
Okay.
1, Alpine.
Tractor.
In the constructors. Oh God, goodness. They did one of their, I think it was Esteban, made it to Q2, which was really exciting.
Congrats, team.
But yeah. Not really even much to say there. Just woof, woof, woof. Yikes for them. And the other yikes I have is Sauber can't do pit stops, and I'm not really sure what's going on there. I don't know if like the pit stop ability left when Alfa Romeo left. Like I really don't get it. But this is like it could possibly be every race. It's at least the last 2 races where they have had a pit stop that is just so long. Like I think it was over a minute.
Let me ask you this question. Is Sauber pit stops the new Ferrari pit stop?
I think they might be worse. Did you hear the commentary? Like literally while this pit stop's going on, it was so long that like commentary was happening about how long this pit stop is while it was going on, because they were like, they just ruined Valtteri's race, like literally ruined his race in a pit stop. So I don't know what's happening there, but could we figure that out? Guys and gals
and ladies. Yeah.
Let's go. I just needed to say something about that, because like literally, again, this is Formula One. This is back to the like first conversation with Williams. Like, why don't we have spare chassis, and why are we taking so long to do a pit stop? What is happening, everybody?
To
shape up.
Oh, so funny.
Last thing, on a happier note. Guess who shocked the heck out of me and got double points?
Haas.
MoneyGram Haas F1 team, of course.
MoneyGram Haas F1, sponsored by Chipotle. Yeah, they did it.
Great.
Proud of you. Not 10th.
Not 10th.
You know how their principal, like we talked about how he came out and said that they will be 10th, you know, when they launched their car? Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm a really big fan of this strategy. Under promise, over deliver. This is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we are only a few races in, but they are currently 7th in the constructors. Not bad.
Pretty nice.
Not bad. I will say Williams, Sauber, and Alpine. Alpine is 10th. Behind them all have 0 points, but they have 4, and RB is above them with 6.
VCarb,
yeah. Red Bull obviously is leading with 97. Ferrari right behind them with 93. McLaren P3 with 55. Yeah. Mercedes with 26. Aston with 25, and then RB with 6. Yeah. So again,
and
we're early in the season, but we're seeing some interesting shifts.
I did see something too that said that if Carlos had raced last race,
he could be leading in the championship right now.
Yeah. Wild.
I mean, we got a lot of racing to go.
We do. We have 21 races, and now we're in the stint of rough times for the East Coasters.
Yeah, I miss the Sunday morning races are my favorite. You wake up, you make your coffee.
Yeah. Well, even just like the Jeddah Saudi Arabia ones, they're at 10. Yeah. They're at 10 a.m. It's perfect.
I actually prefer the earlier ones, like the Europe ones, but
oh yeah,
because then it's like you just have your whole day after that. Like
that is true.
Yeah, these nighttime ones, because Japan, we don't have a race this weekend. Everybody, just clarifying.
Yeah, that. No. The race is at 1 a.m. for Japan. I'm looking at it. Yeah,
that'll be. What time's quali?
It doesn't say on my little thing. It just shows free practice race. There's not 4 columns. There's only 3.
Oh my gosh. East Coast friends, we are screwed. Quali's at 2 a.m.
I think because is it in Shanghai, the China race?
Well, this is Japan.
I know, but I'm talking about the China race after. Or is it Hong Kong?
I don't know.
The race that is in China, I kind of hate the fact that I don't know what city it's in. The race that's in China, I think, is at like 3 a.m.
Well, and the thing is, I simply have to watch live because this is the first time in a very long time that I was like, all right, I have to be like up and doing things in the morning on Sunday. So I was like, okay, I'll just wake up early and watch the race before I have to go do things rather than stay up late and be tired to go. I had to go get a haircut. Okay.
Doesn't her hair look amazing?
Thanks, everybody. And of course, the one time this happens, like it's such a good, exciting race. So like now I simply can't bring myself to do that again and miss it. Because also, yes, I know what you're thinking, Jamie, you have F1 TV, you can just turn it on and watch it. It's not like you're missing anything. However, I have this like physical compulsion when I wake up in the morning to open Twitter. Like I cannot stop myself. Therefore, all the results are spoiled for me if I don't watch the race live because I open Twitter and they're right there.
Yeah.
So I really put myself in a pickle here. So I'll be watching the race at 3 a.m.
I don't know. Be a game day decision.
You know, we will all get through this. But yeah, no race this weekend. So everybody have a lovely, relaxing, no racing weekend. Try to have some fun.
Rest up.
If you're a celebrator of Easter, happy Easter. I wore my pastels for all of you. And we will talk to you next week. We have a fun idea. We have some fun stuff to talk through next week. No racing, but we have a musical event.
We will be putting on a musical.
We're singing the whole episode.
It's a Hamilton situation.
Yes.
You totally could do like a scripted series movie musical about Formula One. You totally could.
Yeah.
If anyone's creative enough to do something
already existing songs like Shut Up and Drive.
Oh,
like Anna, Vroom Vroom by Charlie XCX. Like the options are truly endless.
You could do Burning Up, for Max's last race. You could do Burning Up by the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, it could be like, Max could, in the music or the musical version, it could be like Max getting out of the car, like he pulls down pit lane with the car like smoking, and then it's like the dun, 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 and then he jumps out of the car, pulls his helmet off, and he starts singing, "I'm hot, you're cold."
Yeah, I'm obsessed. I feel like Pitbull also has a song about fire that could definitely
Fireball.
Fireball. Can you imagine? He gets out, throws his helmet, and just yells Fireball. Sick. Okay, we'll be working on this. This is a good workshop section.
So prepare your sing-alongs, everybody. We'll be singing away next week. I'm kidding, but I'm not really. All right.
No, we won't, because we upload this to YouTube and we don't want the copyright strikes.
Is it still copyright if you're singing it with no backing, like a cappella?
Honestly, yeah, it could be. It's pretty strict.
Well, we're going to be really good, so.
We're going to just have to not be on beat. And that's probably what it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, enough of this. Have a lovely, lovely week. Love you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.